In Latin America, governments have historically been much more open about reports of so-called unidentified aerial phenomena. And as you're about to see, there's a heck of a lot to report.
In March of 2004, a Mexican Air Force surveillance plane patrols along the Gulf of Mexico. On the lookout for drug smugglers, its infrared camera instead captures this startling footage. A string of glowing orbs. The video lasts for almost a minute, and here you can see 11 of those orbs seeming to fly in formation. When the plane turns to follow, the objects seem to disappear. The camera operator declares that whatever it was he's filmed, it's 100% real. The Mexican Secretary of Defense releases the video so that the scientific community can study it. MJ Banayas, a journalist who covers the unexplained, has looked into the incident.
When this sighting was first made public, a lot of people within the UFO community got very excited about UFOs operating in fleets.
These orbs are reminiscent of those Foo Fighters seen by World War II pilots. They also look similar to another Mexican UFO we've reported on before. This glowing object, which Captain Eric Delgado recorded in 2020, as it tracked his cargo plane for 20 minutes in the airspace above Monterey.
That is phenomenal, man. Look at that.
Strangely, that orb never showed up on Delgado's collision avoidance system or air traffic control's radar.
There's weather about 40 miles off our left wingtip where this thing seems to have disappeared. I guess now I can definitively say we are not alone.
Something similar was reported with this Mexican Air Force incident. The crew of the surveillance plane counted 11 objects, but only 3 showed up on the plane's radar. For years, this video has sparked hot debate, so we turned it over to our team of experts.
Mick West is a forensic video analyst who looks for any tampering with the footage. His conclusion?
This is a real video of UFOs. It was taken by the Mexican military and verified as being a real thing.
Which brings us to the challenge of identifying those glowing objects. Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio considers the most obvious answer.
There's a theory that this is maybe a fleet of aircraft being flown by drug smugglers, but these objects never distance themselves from each other. I think drug smugglers are probably not championship formation flying pilots like the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. You know, one plane will go up higher, one will come lower, so I don't think that these are other aircraft.
West considers a string of other theories, including a mysterious natural phenomenon, orbs of light known as ball lightning.
Ball lightning is very, very rare, and it normally just occurs one at a time and doesn't last very long. So I think the likelihood of this being a whole bunch of ball lightning all at once is extraordinarily low.
What about space junk?
A rocket disintegrating you would see up in the air. This is something that are looking basically horizontal out of the horizon. So space junk is not really a good explanation.
So the objects don't move like space junk. In fact, West thinks they might not be moving at all. Plotting the plane's location, West calculates that its camera was pointed out over the Gulf of Mexico.
If we look at a map of the region, we can see there's a whole bunch of oil wells, which usually have some kind of flare on the top. So perhaps what they were seeing were the flares from these platforms.
But it seems clear the objects are moving, right?
Just above the horizon, you're poking up these little oil wells. And here's some kind of dummy clouds, which I've put in. And if we move the camera to the left, it looks like the oil rigs are moving past the clouds. So it's an illusion of motion.
But even West admits his theory isn't 100% certain. Digging deeper, we found out the oil wells are almost 100 miles from the plane, making it unlikely they'd show up on thermal camera. And another crucial detail. You see the flickering flames from the oil wells? In the alleged UFOs, no flickering.
So, oil wells or something stranger? We're calling this a sighting of genuine UFOs. And the similarities with the orb recently reported by Captain Delgado are striking. 17 years after this video was shot, the Mexican government, just like us, is still looking for answers.
It's July 2019, about 100 miles off the California coast. U.S. warships are engaged in military exercises. And according to the ship's logs, they're also being harassed by, quote, unmanned aerial vehicles of unknown origin. Reporters uncover the story in April of 2021. And things get really wild when filmmaker Jeremy Corbell releases this. Night vision footage recorded on a destroyer, the USS Russell, picks up a trio of objects that seem to fly overhead. The largest one is blinking. Whoever shot this video thinks the objects are important enough to leak the footage to the public. Let's slow it down and zoom in, because there's something else worth pointing out here. The objects are triangle or pyramid-shaped, and that's significant.
Starting in the mid-1970s, we began seeing a rise of sightings concerning UFOs that appeared to be triangular in shape. This was pushed a lot more forward into the late 80s, early 90s.
There have been a string of triangle UFO sightings, including one over Belgium in 1990, and a famous incident in the skies over Phoenix, Arizona on March 13, 1997. One thing that's different about the USS Russell triangles, they were filmed during military maneuvers, which always attract a lot of unwanted attention.
It's very possible that the Chinese would be using drones to surveil American naval ships in the Pacific Ocean. It's very much part of their intelligence mandate. The fact that the Navy did confirm that this video was used in their intelligence reports is compelling. However, we need to be very clear. We don't know if this is a foreign power. We don't know, as some people have speculated, if they're otherworldly.
Unlike other famous Navy videos, this footage was not shot on a military-grade camera, which would provide crucial metadata. But our experts think there's enough here for a thorough analysis anyway. Let's see what they come up with.
Tim McMillan has reported extensively on unexplained naval encounters with devices of unknown origin. He's doubtful this could be a secret triangle-shaped American military craft.
I think that people are probably very familiar with the B-2 stealth bomber or the retired F-117 stealth plane, but they're actually delta wing. They are not perfectly triangular like what we're seeing here. It's not an aerodynamic shape, and there isn't any perfectly triangular aircraft that we're aware of anywhere in the world.
It's definitely not one of our stealth fighters. Mick West wonders if they might be natural objects.
So what I did was I took the video, I overlaid it on a star map here. So we have Jupiter down here and the other stars down here. They're all lined up, took the video. And then I moved the video and one little star appears over here, matches up quite nicely. And if we keep going, the video ends up right here. And there's two stars in that exact spot.
West thinks stars might explain two of the three objects, but what about the third? And why is it pyramid-shaped? Mark D'Antonio looks for clues in the camera work.
In the video, you see this flagpole type thing that's sticking up. Well, that's in focus, but everything past it is not.
West wonders if what's happening is a phenomenon known as bokeh. When the camera is out of focus, light from a distant object will hit the camera sensor in the shape of the aperture.
It's filmed by somebody holding up their phone camera to a night vision binocular. This is a night vision binocular, and this is actually one that has a triangular aperture. Then you would get these triangular shapes.
An out-of-focus camera with a triangle-shaped iris, that could explain how this image was made. But importantly, it still doesn't explain what it was filming. For D'Antonio, the flashing light stands out.
7, 8. I'm counting the blinks. 9. And they were flashing at 1 flash per second. Now that's 60 flashes per minute. 60 flashes per minute is the strobe frequency that you can see on aircraft.
Yes, the green pyramid is flashing at the FAA's required frequency. And the odds of an alien spacecraft coincidentally flashing at the exact same rate seem pretty low.
So, our verdict on this video. Two of the objects are almost definitely out-of-focus stars, and the third is most likely a commercial plane.
It's a video that got a lot of attention this year. But in this case, it's no UFO. We call them as we see them. August 15th, 1950, Great Falls, Montana. Baseball coach Nick Mariana is out scouting a new ball field accompanied by his secretary. He's brought along a 16mm film camera, but what catches his eye isn't the field. It's in the sky above it. We zoom in and focus on what Mariana sees. The 11-second clip captures two silver objects appearing to fly in tandem across the Montana sky.
This video is particularly interesting to me, mainly because this was before satellites crowded our sky. So seeing some light traveling across the sky was a very unusual event.
Take a closer look. Are these illuminated orbs tic-tacs? Compare them to the Nimitz footage on the right. We know they're not an artifact in the film or a flaw in the camera lens because they move behind this water tower here.
What we're looking at here potentially could be the very first UFO video ever captured.
Mariana's incident occurred during the UFO craze of the late 40s and early 50s. It began when Kenneth Arnold first reported seeing strange objects fly into Mount Rainier in 1947, coining the term flying saucer. And it hit a fever pitch after the Roswell incident in New Mexico that same year, which has since become a touchstone of pop culture. But what's striking here is that Mariana later described the objects as silver spinning discs, much like what may have crashed in the New Mexico desert, depending on who you ask about Roswell.
The initial report was that the military had found a flying disc, so it was picked up by newspapers across the country. Then, pretty much immediately, they retracted their story and said it was a weather balloon. And the change in the story led some people to think that there was a little something fishy going on.
Many believe the Roswell incident is a cover-up.
Nick Mariana was so convinced he'd filmed a UFO, he reached out to the U.S. Air Force to report the incident. They examined his footage. Now it's time for our experts to do so as well.
With today's technology, it's quite easy to insert UFOs into digital video. Like this one over Miami, we judged to be a fake last year.
What the is that? Wait, bye.
And he instantly says, okay, bye, and then he pans away from it. It's very strange. I would expect that an operator doesn't simply move away after they see something like that. They stay focused on it.
This video was clearly faked.
But back in 1950, Nick Mariana didn't have the computer technology needed to doctor a video. That makes a big difference.
This 11-second film was captured on 16mm film, which makes it almost impossible to doctor. Whatever we're seeing here was captured in camera in the moment.
So we can rule out that this was a hoax. But the Air Force told Mariana that what he'd recorded was two F-94 fighter jets flying near Great Falls at the time. Maybe that's the case, and maybe not.
There's controversy because the jets were known to be in a very different area than here.
The explanation that this was, what appears to be the reflection off of the F-94 jets. One problem with that is anybody who's looked up in the sky and seen the sun reflecting off of a plane recognizes that as the plane's in motion, where the sun is relative to that, that's going to change that reflection a little bit. It can cause flickering, it can cause it to dim.
For physics buffs, this phenomenon is called the law of reflection. When a ray of light strikes a silvery or mirrored surface, it's reflected away from the surface at the same angle. So if you move that mirrored surface, the reflection shifts with it.
And suddenly you can clearly see an aircraft. But in this instance, we see a consistent light source. That would be more consistent with something that is actually displaying light itself rather than reflecting light from an exterior source. It certainly doesn't appear to be F-94 jets.
So McMillan is confident the craft are emitting light, not reflecting it. But maybe there is some other explanation. In the past, we've seen that some kinds of birds can be mistaken for UFOs. Is that the case here?
I don't believe that is in the cards here because the tower is a couple hundred feet or more from Nick Mariana, and then beyond that are these objects. They're moving so fast that they'd have to be very, very, very fast birds.
In a dive, falcons can reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour, but these objects are moving horizontally, and the fastest birds, like ducks, are closer to the 70-mile-an-hour range. Whatever Mariana filmed appears to be flying several times that speed.
So it just doesn't fit. If they were jets, it would be relatively simple to show that they were jets, and no one would hide the fact. So how come we don't know the answer?
So our verdict on the Mariana film. There's room for debate here, but the Air Force's explanation isn't doing it for us. So we're going to call this a genuine UFO. One thing's for sure, we've come a long way since 1950, both in the technology we use to document UFOs and also our government's attitude about reporting them, even if it can't say what they are.
It's 1994 at the Nevada Test and Training Range. It's used for flight tests, aerial gunnery, even nuclear tests. Today, an Air Force tracking station in the desert is monitoring the airspace above the top secret site when its remote-controlled cameras capture something that has no business being there.
I don't know. We acquired this unknown object, aircraft some type. It seems to be hovering there.
These 12 minutes of video were captured by remote-controlled cameras from the Nellis Air Force Base. And what they show you is fascinating.
The video was shot with a camera that amplifies the light from the stars and the moon to make it appear almost as bright as day. You can see in the time code that it was 11:21 p.m. That's the moon causing the bright lens flare while the operators zoom in on the object.
It appears to be a craft of undefined shape and origin that's moving erratically in a pattern that wouldn't be explained by the aircraft technology available at the time.
The readout in the upper right of the frame measures the object's distance from the camera.
We'll call this a kill on his unknown aircraft. T1 control doesn't know what type of aircraft it is either.
The object moves slowly above the horizon and then soars upward.
This object doesn't appear to have any wings or rotor blades, and it appears to change shape in flight.
Yeah, it's southbound. It's moving fast. If you stop it. Standby 13.
Now here's what takes the weird to that other level. Within the Nevada Test and Training Range is a high security area whose name has become synonymous with UFO theory, Area 51.
Area 51 is a military base. The military didn't actually acknowledge that it existed until the 2000s, I want to say. And many in the UFO community believe that it's a hotspot for testing on alien technology. So when it actually was confirmed to exist, it was a really big deal.
But here's the thing. If this was some top secret tech, domestic or alien, being flown out of Area 51, you'd think the operators would know something about what's going on. Instead, they sound completely confused, which suggests that whatever this is didn't have the clearance to be there. So what are we really looking at? Let's hand this over to our experts.
The object moves erratically in the sky, which suggests it's not an aircraft that we knew about at the time, such as a helicopter or a jet. The way it's moving is almost the way a drone would move, but drones didn't exist when this was captured.
So the object's movement rules out known aircraft, as does its odd shape. Let's zoom in. There's no sign of an engine or an exhaust trail.
That leads me to believe that what we're looking at here is powered potentially by cold gas thrusters, a technology that wasn't necessarily as well understood at the time, but it could be an early prototype for a modern drone.
Could it be that the tracking station picked up some kind of classified military project being researched in nearby Area 51?
Anytime you're doing really classified testing, you turn off your tracking cameras. So the fact that this was captured and recorded is very intriguing. All of that is inconsistent with what we'd expect with actual classified aerospace testing.
But Mick West takes a closer look. He doesn't think the object is moving much at all.
Whenever you see it moving and you can see something like a hill in the background, you'll see they both move together. So all the motion that we have in this particular video is just the motion of the camera. It's not really moving very rapidly in the scene. And it's not really turning or making any very abrupt moves. It's just kind of gently seeming to drift along and gently rotate.
Mark D'Antonio sees it the same way.
All the fast movements you see here are the camera itself moving to re-engage with the object and to see it. But it's not the object moving quickly. If you study the sky background and if you look at what is going on, you'll notice that the camera's doing all the moving.
And that leads both D'Antonio and West to a very earthly explanation.
It looks like a bunch of balloons, which is, an odd thing that you might not expect to see on a military training range, but there are small towns nearby. Someone could have just had a party and some balloons got loose, or it could have been something that they were experimenting with.
There have been balloon targets used before. Maybe this is what we're seeing here, but the folks on the base, they certainly weren't expecting this.
This is, unfortunately, is a case where we may never know what this object actually was, because this is the type of thing that the military either forgets about or they don't tell you about.
So based on that further observation of the object's motion and shape, we're going to say that this was some kind of balloon that meandered into the high-security airspace. But this incident was not mentioned in the government's recent UFO report. So what the Pentagon thinks of this remains a mystery.
Took off, let's book it.
This leaked footage, obtained by filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, comes from inside the ship's Combat Information Center. It shows a sphere-like object flying near the ship in windy and choppy conditions.
Break Omaha, pick me kid, Rafael Peralta, pass ability to launch Hilo ASAP.
Whoa, it's getting close.
This is happening the same month the Green Pyramid footage was shot on board the USS Russell, another ship participating in these exercises. The Omaha is concerned enough to prepare to launch a helicopter when the object appears to dive into the ocean.
What was splashed? Splashed. Mark bearing and range.
Unconfirmed reports say the Omaha and a nearby submarine proceeded to search the water for signs of the object, but found nothing. The crucial element in this video is the plunging into the ocean, classifying this as a so-called transmedium UFO, an object that appears to possess amphibious capabilities. In other words, a USO, an unidentified submerged object.
This is a belief based on data, based on what other navies, including our own, have seen in the ocean. So it's possible that these unknown objects are playing cat and mouse with our own submarines.
USOs have been documented by the U.S. Navy for decades, including the famous Aguadilla incident off the coast of Puerto Rico in 2013. In that case, a DEA plane recorded this footage of an object circling the airport, then heading out to sea and entering the water at high speed, then re-emerging. One theory posits that ETs are either exploring the Earth's oceans as well as its skies, or that perhaps they have underwater bases we're unaware of.
Maybe alien life forms could have made it to us, and if they got here, where would they go? They know we're intelligent. So they would go where we are not. And where we are not is in the deep ocean.
Some say that's what Legends of Atlantis were about all along, an alien base for USOs. But it's important to note that all reported transmedium objects are not identical. For example, the Aguadilla footage from 2013 showed the object apparently emerging from the water and then splitting in two. In contrast, the more recent object seen on the Omaha just splashes down and disappears. No reemergence, no splitting, at least not on camera. So maybe this thing can be explained after all. Let's find out.
Could it be a parachute flare? Unlikely, as it's moving across the water horizontally. A weather balloon. No material was recovered in a search of the area, and a balloon would not lose its infrared heat signature that fast upon hitting the water.
We can see it maneuver from right to left. We can see it ascend abruptly. All of that is pretty inconsistent with any types of balloons, whether it's even an atmospheric testing balloon, that type of thing. If it's moving lighter than air, it's going to be carried by wind currents, but it's not going to have a propulsion system. There's not going to be a thrust that sends it into different directions.
You notice it moves across the water with some speed. A balloon wouldn't be moving across the water at high speed just to stop. So it's not a balloon, in my view.
Unlikely it's a plane. The object has no wings, and because it was captured on a thermal camera, we can see that its temperature is even on all surfaces. If it were a jet, it would appear much hotter at the rear exhaust nozzle. How about a drone, launched by an adversary trying to gather intel on our aerial defense capabilities?
It takes a large drone that's about the size of a plane to sustain flight time for hours. But these evidently were up in the air for hours, plaguing the ships. And the Navy says they still can't identify them.
If it was a drone, were they trying to tease the U.S. military? They wouldn't give away technology like that. They wouldn't let on that they had this technology. They haven't shot at it. They haven't done anything to it whatsoever. Yet it's falling and eventually landing in the water.
But what about when it hits the water? Even if a drone split apart on impact, you'd still expect the pieces to show up in the thermal image. Instead, it just seems to disappear.
This object went into the water where any other type of aircraft, there should have been a crash, there should have been some debris. However, none was found.
So we've ruled out almost every possible earthly explanation. But we have to seriously consider that this object might have been a foreign military asset. On the other hand, how likely is it that the U.S. military would be unable to identify such objects no matter how sophisticated they might be? Like the government, we're calling this a genuine UFO. But the report's vagueness leaves the topic wide open for further debate. That's why the UFO community is now clamoring for further disclosure, especially about those other 141 incidents that haven't been made public.
October 2018, Hohhot, the industrial capital of Inner Mongolia. The city of 2.8 million is going about its business when this tears across the sky. A large, bright object corkscrews overhead, leaving a breathtaking trail. Startled citizens all over the city begin filming. It looks like some sort of vapor swirling in the sky. And at one point, right here, it looks like a beam shining down on the city.
This thing, whatever it was extremely strange looking. So you kind of can't blame people for looking up and thinking, it's an alien spaceship.
Of course, a rocket launch is the obvious explanation. But hang on, rocket launches don't usually happen over large, densely populated areas. Their contrails aren't typically illuminated like this one. And importantly, they usually have linear flight trajectories, not this weird corkscrewing path.
It doesn't seem to be going anywhere specific. It seems to kind of be meandering throughout the sky.
That raises another theory. Might this be the debut of a breakthrough military technology?
One explanation that has been posited is that they come from the Dongfang Aerospace City, where they are creating new types of technology, space-age technology, and that they are the result of an effort to give China a leg up in the space race.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding this particular area, and no one has come forward to claim responsibility, so we don't actually know what happened here.
The Chinese military keeps a tight lid on what's happening at Dongfang. Foreigners are rarely allowed to visit. But we do know the Chinese admitted to using a missile to destroy one of their own satellites back in 2007. So is this video proof of some new advanced space weapon? Is it a craft from out of this world? Or something else entirely?
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio first considers that this might be a comet.
Oh, this is cool. We talk about comets in the night sky all the time. And comets do move across the sky.
But known comets are astronomical objects millions of miles away.
They take days, if not weeks, to move across the sky. This is moving across the sky in a matter of seconds. So, is it a comet that's very close to the Earth? If it was that close to the Earth, it would probably envelop the entire Earth. This glow would be everywhere.
So we can rule out that theory. As for a UFO, in general, one of their defining characteristics is an unknown means of propulsion, like the famous Tic Tac video from 2004.
In a lot of the truly unexplained UFO videos that we see, we don't see the characteristics that you have in this video. Namely, all of this exhaust trail that you're seeing here.
That massive exhaust trail brings us back to the rocket theory. But there's some explaining to do. First, that illumination. How can it be a rocket if it doesn't look like night launches in the U.S.? McMillan has a theory based on the time of day.
These videos were filmed roughly an hour after sunset. And so what you're seeing is the rocket itself is above and high enough altitude with the curvature of the Earth that the sun is actually still reflecting light off of the exhaust trail.
Okay, but what about that bizarre corkscrewed flight path?
So whatever the object is, you can see it's changing trajectory. Could this be some type of classified or experimental rocket testing? Possibly we're looking at some kind of GPS, laser-guided, some type of rocket system that is targeting something, potentially moving. You can see these patterns in something like Israel's Iron Dome system, which is designed to seek out rockets as an air defense measure. That's also on the table.
But hang on. McMillan says the fact that this happened over a highly populated area opens up another, less impressive possibility.
So it certainly appears that we have something that has gone awry, and it's not traveling the path that it was intended. The idea that it could be a failed rocket system is certainly plausible.
Our verdict here? This was a Chinese rocket, but what it was and whether this video captured a failed launch or a success, we can't say. If the Chinese launched at night to keep it secret, well, we can safely say that didn't work. One thing is certain, the new space race is underway, and the Chinese government is building its own space station. So we are sure to hear more about their ambitions in the coming years.
Now, there have been countless UFO sightings over the years, but many experts consider this next piece of footage the gold standard. Take a look for yourself. It's just after dark on August 25th, 2013 in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. The crew of a United States Customs and Border Patrol plane is taking off for a routine mission when they notice a strange pinkish light approaching from the northwest. They turn on their thermal imaging camera to track the object, and this is what they see. Let's take a closer look. It appears to be a metallic sphere moving fairly quickly around the airport. Then it heads out over the ocean where it does something truly unexpected. Did you catch what happened? Let's zoom in. The object seems to splash down in the water before re-emerging seconds later. Even more bizarre, the object then splits into two separate craft.
And people, there is no known Earth technology that can do that.
After nearly 4 minutes, the object disappears from view. Now, Puerto Rico is the location for several sightings of so-called USOs, unidentified submerged objects. Back in the 1990s, a Navy helicopter pilot allegedly saw an unidentified dark underwater mass during a training exercise. Another published report describes a similar incident in 1963 during an anti-submarine exercise led by the USS Wasp.
They keep talking about these incidents occurring around their aircraft carriers, naval ships. Puerto Rico, long history of interesting sighting, very long history.
What makes this video so special is that it comes straight from $1 million infrared camera mounted on a government plane. There's a ton of data to analyze here. So what do our experts think?
It's a credible case. It's a credible video.
Richard Hoffman heads the Scientific Coalition for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. First question, is the video real?
The telemetry you see on the screen showing GPS location identically matched what you had with radar. So there really was an aircraft.
Next, Hoffman's team determines the object's temperature to help identify it. They compare the heat signature of the craft to some cows on the ground in this frame at the top of your screen.
We broke the video into 256 shades from white to black, all different shades of gray. And we were able to match that up with the temperature of the cows to match the temperature of the object. The object was roughly at about 104 degrees.
Right away, that eliminates a jet engine, which emits exhaust 15 times hotter.
The thermal signature doesn't match anything that we know now, and there's no sign of any kind of propulsion system on this.
Then they figure out the object's size using this frame when the object goes behind a light post 2 pixels wide.
Okay, well, the object went behind it was blanked out. So now maybe it's 2 pixels. That's why we come up with it's about 3 to 5 feet in diameter.
Based on that analysis, Hoffman says the most likely earthly explanations are eliminated.
We ruled out that it wasn't a balloon. It was about 18-mile-an-hour winds from the northeast, and this object was going in opposite directions from that. So it's clearly not a balloon.
What about a drone? Our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, is skeptical.
How are you achieving flight without an airfoil, without an angle attack, without wings, to simplify it? How are you doing that?
And finally, a bird?
We took a look at thermal signatures of birds and various other objects, and it doesn't match anything like this. And there you go. It's unidentified. It's not from any place here.
So is it proof or not? Well, you might think it's a bird, a balloon, or a man-made aircraft, but it is hard to explain how this goes in and out of the water and splits. So folks, we're gonna call this a UFO. You almost never see an object like this going into and out of the water. That's amazing.
It's Independence Day in Alamance, North Carolina, and a local man is enjoying a barbecue with his family. Fireworks are going off intermittently, so he's been looking at the sky all evening, when he suddenly sees something even more spectacular.
It's moving. It's moving slow.
It's a classic orb-shaped UFO, the kind we've seen in several videos. Some real, some fake. And what makes this footage extra special is that it goes on for more than 8 minutes.
God, I wish I had some binoculars.
Now look at what happens here at the 6.5-minute mark.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Something's coming off of it. 2 things are coming off of it.
Where is it at?
One went up and one's coming down.
Where is it?
Holy crap. Look at this.
The orb seems to bifurcate, and seconds later, it splits again.
Oh, now something's coming out of the other one. Holy third one's coming out.
There's 3 different. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Like other orbs seen around the world, this one had no wings or obvious means of propulsion. It's hard to judge its speed, but others have been clocked by commercial pilots at over 500 miles per hour.
And it's pulsating too, man. That is nuts.
Journalist Alexis Brooks, who writes and speaks about UFOs, says the duration of this sighting is important.
Some individuals that have long contact encounters, that is exceeding 5 minutes or more, may actually be having a literal contact encounter without them being consciously aware of it. Could it be that non-human intelligence or the occupants of the craft were actually making contact with the witness and vice versa?
Yeah, we got some action going on here, boys.
The witness said he later tried to find some earthly explanation for the incident, even checking with a nearby military base. But to this day, he says he's gotten no answers. Our experts may be able to change that.
Our video analyst, Mark D'Antonio, begins by looking at the surrounding factors involved in this event.
I stepped through it frame by frame to try to isolate the components and equate them with something that we might already know. It's actually pretty high altitude.
For starters, D'Antonio's positive it couldn't be a bird.
Birds don't have that kind of reflectivity to them. Even geese at high altitude, you can still detect that they're birds.
He's just as sure it's not a plane or a drone.
Planes and drones, they have to follow Federal Aviation Administration rules for lighting, and this object had none of that.
Nor could it be a natural phenomenon like a meteor. It just hangs in the sky too long.
Meteors are momentary objects. They go through the sky, and then they're gone.
So what was it? The secret could be in that strange splitting.
Here you can see, in this image, you can see how it's a teardrop shape, and these objects are falling away. And the object that's way up there has changed brightness tremendously. Now, my thinking takes me down the path of weather balloon.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time a weather balloon was mistaken for a UFO. In fact, the government initially claimed it was a weather balloon that caused the Roswell incident. But that still doesn't explain how this thing could split apart and move off in different directions.
I would guess that this is a weather balloon where whatever was attached to it broke off. And when something like this happens, the resistance of the air will tend to streamline it and make it more into a teardrop shape. And that shape is what I think we're seeing here.
That theory sounds plausible, but then, to our surprise, atmospheric scientist Deanna Hintz shoots it out of the sky.
So I do think it's really unlikely that this is any kind of, weather instrument. They come down on a little parachute, and they wouldn't emit light this brightly like this. But it doesn't seem to be meteorologically related.
You see it, Dean? You see a UFO?
So, America, is it proof or not? It doesn't appear to be a bird or a plane. Could it be a weather balloon? Maybe. But a local weather service later told the witness there were none in the area. Until we get more solid information, we're going to call this a genuine UFO.
It's January 9th, 2017, and we're in the heel of the Italian boot. At 7:38 p.m., Lucio Margiotta, a teacher at the Music Academy of Salento, records something strange in the sky.
Guarda tu cellulare che sto fermo.
A glowing orb appears to bob in the sky. Then it slowly expands into an elongated cigar-like shape.
Si sta aprendo?
And continues to expand until it forms a circular donut.
Oh mio Dio, signore.
The light phases or shifts from a greenish hue to white. Then the light reverts back to its original shape and color before fading away.
No, guarda, mo adesso si è fatta di nuovo.
When we look to the skies, there are certain things that we expect to see there. A really bright star, a drone, a satellite, a meteor. What we're seeing in this video doesn't look like any of those things.
Lucio's video is just the latest in a millennia of strange sights over Italy.
Roman myth is rife with the gods behaving in strange ways that would often resemble odd lights in the sky.
The Roman historian Livy wrote of phantom ships seen gleaming in the sky. Classical paintings depict what appear to be flying saucers. And it didn't stop in the Renaissance.
In October 1954, UFOs actually stopped a football game in Italy. 10,000 people witnessed some strange ships up in the sky.
Then in December of 1978, the New York Times reported a rash of donut-shaped objects spotted in the skies over Italy.
So we have a wide variety of Italian ovni, and there are other accounts like this one from Oregon of lights undergoing shape and color shifts like the one Lucio reported. So what exactly is happening in the Italian skies?
We've seen mystery rings in the sky before, but those turned out to be emissions from nearby smokestacks. They didn't emit any light. So let's turn to our expert in all things weather-related, Deanna Hintz.
The weather was pretty calm with only scattered clouds, so there wasn't anything really happening during this particular time to suggest any kind of electrical activity from, say, a thunderstorm or something like that.
Hintz considers if it could be related to rings that form around the sun called halos and sundogs. There are similar ones around the moon.
Light passing from either the sun or the moon is bent and refracted by ice crystals that are very high up in the atmosphere. And you will see a sometimes brilliant halo around that light source.
Some look almost like UFOs with one big difference.
But you would still see the source of the light, either be the sun or the moon, in the center of that halo. Whereas here in this video, that center light source is blocked.
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio notes that Lucio is zoomed into his camera's maximum magnification, which can exaggerate any distortions in the image.
It was shot with a cell phone camera, and they're just not that good at taking nighttime photographs. The camera itself may have some junk on the lens. See, as it goes in and out of focus, okay, it's almost like there's moisture on the lens, and he's just getting some video artifacts. I mean, if there's any kind of moisture on the lens, you can actually create some really kaleidoscopic objects from your camera.
But while D'Antonio says that lens issue might create the circle image and the phasing, he still can't pinpoint the original source of that light in the sky. He rules out a laser or spotlight because they would have to reflect off the clouds. And it was a clear night. Beyond that, he's stumped.
I'm not saying that it's not an actual unidentified flying object. So it's a mystery. We don't know what it is exactly.
There's currently no official explanation for this video from the Italian government. If the light came from a drone, a plane, or a helicopter, you would think they would have said so. So our verdict, a genuine ovni. And in the absence of any further evidence, this object remains unidentified.
November 2020 on the coast of Cornwall in southwest England, a live webcam viewer is recording a gorgeous sunset. But the footage captures something more than a postcard-worthy seascape. A glowing orb races onto screen, hovers, then rockets straight up and out of frame. Watch again. Rapid deceleration and then vertical flight. It appears to rocket almost 3,000 feet straight up in less than a second.
That indicates some sort of space-time distortion.
Anthropologist Michael Masters has a theory about who might be in such a craft.
It's important to consider our own evolution and our technological and biological evolution to the sense that maybe they're us. Maybe they're coming from the future to examine their own hominin evolutionary past.
Masters believes that if future humans can manipulate time to travel into the past, they might also be able to build spacecraft capable of these remarkable maneuvers.
This would also make sense in the context of what we see in this video. As this craft flies in at tremendous speed and stops instantaneously, and then accelerates at tremendous speed.
G-force is a measure of acceleration, with 1 G the force Earth exerts on us. And at first glance, it looks like G-force generated by this object's acceleration would be off the charts.
I've never seen any device that can stop on a dime and take off at maximum velocity. So I would suspect that if this is for real, it's either an experimental craft by the military or, let's face it, possibly an extraterrestrial civilization.
The forces suggested by this video pose a technical problem for the time travel theory. Today's astronauts endure about 3 Gs on liftoff. At around 6 Gs, the average person can black out. Past 100 Gs, the forces can shatter bones and squash our organs. So if this is a craft transporting humans from the future, how would they survive? Is another explanation more plausible? Let's turn the video over to our experts.
Forensic video analyst Michael Primo checks to make sure this video isn't a fake.
I don't detect any evidence to support that this has been fabricated or that this object has been inserted into the video recording. I've examined dozens of UFOs and UAPs over the years, and I have seen some objects that travel at a high rate of speed. This is exhibiting similar characteristics.
So the video is legit, and the object's rapid movement is consistent with other UFO sightings. But that doesn't rule out every existing human technology.
A leading theory would be a drone.
But Tim McMillan says a secret military drone wouldn't be out in public. And regulations for commercial drones make that explanation unlikely.
First of all, for commercial drones, they're capped off at 300 feet for regulation purposes. So it's hard to get an accurate gauge on altitude and everything, but we can see it move through the cloud cover out of frame. So it definitely appears to be exceeding that 300-foot maximum that you would expect with a commercial drone. This one's unique. I don't know that I have a very good explanation for it, frankly.
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio wonders if the object might be something else entirely, a reflection.
If this is a webcam, are we seeing this through a window? Does that mean there is something being put on the window, like a laser pointer, that is moving across the window, causing this to look this way?
But look at the rest of the frame. There are no other reflections, suggesting there's a glass window between the camera and the image it's recording.
I can't tell from this, so I can't come to any reasonable conclusions.
This one seems to have stumped just about everyone. So that leaves Masters' time travel theory. What does D'Antonio make of it?
We've already figured out that we might be able to go faster than the speed of light by using a warpage of space-time. And NASA has got a funded lab looking at this because they think it's a possibility down the line.
And recent research indicates that a wormhole, another warpage in space-time, could be used to travel through time.
You know, sometimes science fiction does become science fact, and it's a possibility.
So, our verdict? Well, it's not a hoax, and it's not a plane or a drone, and it's not a laser pointer. Until we can identify it conclusively, we'll consider this a genuine UFO. But look, we really want to get to the bottom of this. If you have any more information about this clip, please reach out and let us know.
March 2021, the good people of Wichita, Kansas are going about their business. Property manager Mike Marler is one of them.
I was on my lunch break and I was going back to work and I was getting off on my exit.
Mike glances to his right and spots this.
What the fuck is this? I noticed in the sky there was something silver. It was long, it was shiny. It was moving very, very fast, so it was very challenging to get a really good angle. What is it?
We slow it down and zoom in, but even then it seems to race out of frame.
And then in a matter of seconds, it just disappeared.
When Mike posts the video to social media, he learns that dozens of others saw the same object. UFOs in Kansas are nothing new. In 1972, one of the world's most famous UFO encounters occurred in Delphus, Kansas, witnessed by 16-year-old Ronnie Johnson on his family farm.
All of a sudden, a large object descended and began hovering over his backyard, and then disappeared, but it left burn marks on the ground.
Ronnie's mother took a picture of this strange circle.
We call it a physical trace case. We also know that there was a slight increase in radiation around the area where the UFO was compared to soil further away from the site.
Did the people of Wichita witness something similar?
There were a lot of eyes on this one. So unless we're dealing with a massive hoax, the video is real. And given the Sunflower State's history with UFOs, it's worth asking our experts if this is proof of an extraterrestrial encounter or a case of mistaken identity.
Our aviation analyst, Tim McMillan, first tries to determine where Mike was when he spotted the object.
As they were filming, they passed several street signs. And so that allows you to narrow down exactly where they are and what direction they're facing.
McMillan uses the location and timestamp on the video to compare it to the flight data from that day. He zeroes in on one craft that is occasionally mistaken for a UFO over Wichita.
The NASA Super Guppy is a very odd-shaped, wide-body cargo aircraft that can even be used to transport the space shuttle. There was one in Wichita that day.
The Super Guppy can carry up to 26 tons of payload. It looks like a cross between a cargo plane and a Zeppelin. NASA itself says it's often mistaken for a UFO, especially when its reflective metal catches the sun. And it frequently flies in and out of Fort McConnell right near Wichita.
But when you look at the flight radar data from that particular day, the Super Guppy was actually several hundred miles away to the southwest. So we can say with absolute certainty this was not the Super Guppy that was being filmed here.
With all the military bases in the area, McMillan thinks it might have been some sort of test.
Could this be some type of drone testing here where we're testing autonomous drone in-flight refueling?
But McMillan can't be sure, and Mark D'Antonio thinks it looks too square and thin to be a normal plane.
It almost looks like it's kind of waving a little bit in the wind. So the next question is, could it be one of those advertising banners that's towed behind these light planes? And the answer is that theory actually matches this the best.
But McMillan disagrees and points to his research on flight data that day as proof.
There isn't anything in that vicinity that's showing up on that flight data. Whatever aircraft it is, it's not operating a transponder, so it's not going to be a civilian aircraft. It's not going to be a commercial aircraft.
So, what do we think? The Guppy, a banner, a top secret craft, or none of the above? Without more evidence, we're going to call this a genuine UFO. But please reach out to us if you have any more information. Spy satellites, stealth fighters, the atomic bomb. These were all once top secret weapons programs. Makes you wonder, what other secret technology is the U.S. military working on now? And could they be working with allies from another planet? According to one foreign government, this video proves it.
September 2018, the Mediterranean Sea. An F-18 is approaching the deck of the carrier USS Ford. It looks like a pinpoint precise landing. But then,
as it goes to touchdown, we actually see a triangular-shaped UFO, like something that would be right out of an alien movie. And you're like, whoa, let's rewind that.
the object definitely doesn't look like any known military aircraft. And that triangle shape, that means something.
Historically, UFOs have been certain types of shapes. You've got cigar UFOs, saucer UFOs, and triangle UFOs. So the fact that there was a triangle UFO on this aircraft carrier, that really sent the UFO community into a frenzy.
The USS Ford video becomes more than clickbait. It becomes international news. The Iranian state media declares it proof that the U.S. is plotting with aliens to take over the world. And even when this official version of the video surfaces, same plane, same ship, but no UFO, people aren't convinced.
Some are wondering, is this original video really the original video? Or did they edit out the triangular-shaped UFO to keep us from knowing that they actually are harboring alien spacecraft?
The U.S. military's so-called black budget for military research and covert ops is estimated at about $50 billion a year. Is this video proof of your tax dollars at work? Let's check in with our experts.
Science writer and forensic video analyst Mick West notices two things right away. First, look at those shadows.
The sun's rays are all parallel. They're all the same angle, like that helicopter angle. But if we go to here, it actually needs to rotate to there. So they've put the shadow at the wrong angle. These all have an angle like this, and these have an angle like that.
Then he stabilized the footage, keeping the deck fixed.
We can see the object kind of jiggles around. Everything else is staying nice and solid, but this is doing a little dance on the deck, which is because they haven't properly registered the motion tracking with the deck at a subpixel level.
Oh, and just one more thing.
It looks not just remarkably, but identically like a toy model kit of what is called the TR-3B. This particular aircraft is identical to the model that is for sale.
McMillan says videos like this aren't all fun and games. When they get exploited by hostile governments, they sow mistrust and anger towards the U.S. military. That's a common tactic in information warfare. So, our verdict? Hoax. And perhaps not such a harmless hoax. Independence Day is now associated with alien invasion thanks to the Hollywood blockbuster by the same name. Recently, one of our very own viewers says he saw more than just fireworks on July 4th. And he sent us a video that has us asking, are UFOs somehow attracted to colorful aerial explosions like we are?
Chatsworth, California, July 4th, 2018. John Lopez is celebrating with his family.
Every year we go out in our backyard because we're able to see the fireworks.
But instead of pyrotechnics, they see something far more startling. These lights
kind of look like fireballs just floating around in the sky, and then like different ones kind of appeared out of nowhere.
Look closer. The lights swoop, flicker on and off, and seem to hover for more than 30 minutes. And what makes it even stranger? This is the second 4th of July in a row that John has seen them.
Mom, the UFOs are back. I swear to God. I swear.
They're back. Trip. Damn. So everyone was kind of shocked to see that.
It left the Lopez family wondering, what had they seen and why does it recur on the 4th? Journalist and author Alexis Brooks is one of the leading authorities on UFO encounters.
We've heard many stories of UFOs showing up repeatedly to individuals, but the fact that it was at the same time and in the same place, I haven't heard too often. You wonder if the fireworks display may have actually attracted these anomalous objects to the scene.
Brooks wonders why the UFOs appear specifically on the 4th.
Are they attracted to the light in the sky that the fireworks portray? Do they want to hide themselves in the midst of fireworks?
Professor of anthropology Michael Masters notes there's a spike in UFO sightings on the 4th, and brings up a theory that they could be trying to figure out exactly what we're doing.
It sort of conjures up ideas of this galactic zoo model, that we're being watched by these otherworldly beings fascinated by this strange ritual of independence where we explode these bombs in the air.
But Independence Day has been around for 200 years. Why are the UFOs only showing up to watch now? One theory is that we've only recently become interesting as a species, now that we're building space stations and supercomputers. Let's see what our experts think of John's video.
We did detect several consistent signatures across the video recordings, both made using similar make and model devices. So there is no evidence that we detected that these files were manipulated.
So the videos are legit, but could they be picking up your typical 4th of July light show?
I don't detect similarities with what I would expect to see from fireworks, because fireworks are a momentary lapse of light in the sky. They explode and then they vanish. There's just simply no evidence of that in these recordings.
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio looks for other explanations, like planes or sky lanterns.
Aircraft have to have Federal Aviation Administration mandated lighting. We don't see that here, so I'm ruling out an aircraft. The sky lantern is slow and moves on the prevailing winds in the sky. These objects are not doing that. They're moving any which way they want. And so that rules out sky lanterns.
Our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, considers if the objects could be flares.
If there are flares fired from an aircraft, you would see them spread out. I would say flares would be pretty unlikely.
And finally, there's always the possibility of drones.
Could someone be operating a drone swarm? Maybe. Drones operate off of battery power. And so if you're operating a very high-powered, high-illumination light, that's less time that your drone is going to be able to stay in the air.
Our experts can only say these lights might be drones, but they can't be certain. So for now, our verdict, these are genuine UFOs. So maybe we are truly living in the land of the free, or we could just be part of a galactic zoo, entertaining the ETs. We've told you before about Lake Superior and its long history of wicked storms, shipwrecks, and anomalous sightings. We'll add this to the list, a close encounter between a Great Lakes freighter and a UFO.
June 2019, Eric Rentamaki is in search of a unique rock called Uperlights that he discovered. It can only be found using a specific black light.
I'm probably one of the most famous rock hounds in the world.
Suddenly, very different glowing lights in the air over the lake catch his eye. Let's push in. It looks like two objects are flying perfectly in line with each other, or they could be two lights on a large object we can't see.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The lights make no noise, and watch this. One passes directly over a ship.
It's a 1,000-foot iron ore freighter, to give you some reference on the size with that video.
When Eric checks in with the freighter, they report that they didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary. Eric watches the orbs for almost 2 hours, and then they seem to start watching him.
Yeah, it's moving towards us. Like real fast moving towards us.
Author Alexis Brooks has heard of UFOs trying to make a connection with humans.
This we see quite often in UFO footage where the light will become more illuminated, almost as if there's a communication going on between this object and the individual that's watching it. So this to me is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
In a prior episode, we discussed the sighting of an alleged ghost ship on Lake Superior. That turned out to be a mirage of a nearby island. Is there some other optical illusion at play here? Let's check in with our ace video analyst.
Regular viewers will know Michael Primo as our video forensic analyst.
I did not detect any evidence to support that this was added into the video recording, that this information was created by computer imagery.
So the video is real, but Primo says the camera's image quality is poor.
We have a camera that's essentially not recording as accurately as we would expect when you point it into the sky and try to capture this information.
Next, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio examines whether the orbs could be something man-made.
One keeps fading in and out. We're not seeing any blinking lights that are mandated by the FAA, so we know that they're not aircraft. It's not impossible that they might be drones. However, one thing to know about drones is they actually have their own set of lights, and an orange light is not typically one of them.
And note that Eric tracked these orbs far longer than any consumer-grade drone can fly. Aviation analyst Tim McMillan wonders if it might be the most obvious culprit of all.
The planet Venus is very commonly mistaken for UFOs because at certain times of the year it can be extremely bright. However, this object is giving off kind of an orangish glow, and frankly, it appears to be much larger than even Venus at its largest points would look.
D'Antonio thinks the object's orange glow is the key evidence.
To me, this object matches a sky lantern profile. It'll get dimmer and brighter, and it'll start to flicker and finally go out.
But what could cause the objects to seem to approach and then retreat from the beach?
Cell phone camera footage is really hard, especially at night where you have a black sky and a singular point-like object. And what will happen is the camera will try to focus on it. It's called focus hunting or focus seeking. And it will go big and get bloated and then shrink down again as it tries to focus. And somebody could mistake that for an object racing toward them and then racing away.
But just because the camera can't hold focus on the orbs doesn't explain what they are. And Eric and his clients saw them for over 2 hours, far longer than sky lanterns can stay aloft.
It is categorically a UFO in that it's unidentified.
This was not a hoax. And while it might not be an alien craft, it remains a genuine, unidentified object. What's for certain is that Eric Rentamaki is still out there hunting Uper-like rocks and now UFOs. Happy hunting, brother.
May 15th, 2021. Hamid Vitalis is walking along the Brooklyn Promenade on his way to work at his freestyle rap channel when he looks out over the Manhattan skyline, whips out his phone, and captures this.
And I'm over here on the promenade looking at some going on. And when I looked at the phone, I saw 3 dots. So I looked up in the sky. I said, hold up, wait a minute. They were basically sitting in a solid pyramid formation.
3 orbs of light hover in the sky. They appear to be stationary. Then a plane appears from the left, passing across the sky toward the orbs.
And right when that plane came, that's when they started darting off. Yo, where'd they go? And only one stayed, and then the one darted off right in my face. And I was like, well, hold up. Wait a minute. What did I just witness, y'all?
Let's play that back, zoomed in and slowed down. The 3 orbs form a triangle. They seem to hover right over Manhattan as a plane, though small moving lights approaches them from below. And 2 vanish in an instant.
Where the lights go? Yo, where'd they go?
And then the 3rd slowly dims away. Why would UFOs be so attracted to the flavor New York is delivering?
Some people believe UFOs go to where all the action is because they pick up on the energy. Well, like moths, they're attracted to the light.
UFO sightings doubled in New York City in 2020. One theory is that in the pandemic, people were taking the time to check out the night sky. The other obvious reason could be that UFOs come here to observe more frequently when our planet is in crisis. Our experts are in a New York state of mind. Let's see what they think.
Mark D'Antonio says Hamid's video's metadata is consistent with camera phones. He thinks it's authentic and unaltered, but he doesn't see anything special in their shape.
Well, any 3 points makes a triangle. So if you're going to see 3 objects in the sky, you're always going to see some form of triangle.
D'Antonio quickly runs through what he thinks the orbs could and couldn't be.
If they were helicopters, then we would expect them to have their own recognition lights. They don't. Now, could they be drones? I don't believe that's what we're looking at. You'll notice that they're also really, really orange. What I see is what could be a classic case of a sky lantern.
Our aviation analyst, Tim McMillan, has a very different idea about what they are.
I think the biggest problem with them being sky lanterns is the fact that how bright they appear to be.
McMillan thinks the bright lights from the big city would drown out those from a drone or a sky lantern. He believes the answer is just a matter of perspective.
It's extremely difficult to judge the distance, height, altitude of aircraft. And when you're just looking at a couple of bright lights in the sky, it's even more difficult.
There were flights arriving at New York's LaGuardia Airport roughly every 10 minutes that night. And McMillan wonders if these are landing lights that are much farther apart than they appear.
Oftentimes, you can see these lights up to 100 miles away. And so I think we're looking at here is a series of aircraft that are coming in on an approach to the airport there with their landing lights on. It's giving this illusion that they're in this triangular pattern, or because they're at different altitudes as they're coming in.
There are over 3,000 flights in and out of New York City airports most days, and if these are 3 planes, they are probably about 5 miles apart from each other as they approach for landing. Their lights would easily be visible from Brooklyn. But how could they seem to disappear?
It may actually be that the aircraft have turned and banked, so they're no longer facing them directly.
Both D'Antonio and McMillan are pretty confident about their conclusions, but we're going to go with McMillan. Planes are far brighter and more numerous than sky lanterns over New York. Hamid is shooting video for his rap channel most nights, so if he discovers any more freestyle in UFOs, we'll drop the knowledge right here. In a previous episode, we debunked this viral UFO video out of Miami as a fake, in part because there was only one witness.
What the is that? Holy.
Now we look to the Florida skies again. This time we have lots of witnesses. And thankfully, one was a loyal viewer who sent us his own video.
February 9th, 2021, Southern Florida. Stuart Eck is on the road when a flash of light makes him pull over. It's not the police, it's this.
Awesome, it's sunrise.
A large white plume unfurls across the sky, growing larger and larger. He's not frightened, but he is amazed.
You see the shockwave go out? Oh, wow, awesome!
I looked over and it was a giant flame in the sky.
Take another look. As the light passes over Stuart, it leaves behind a massive trail.
It ballooned out like it was exploding or something very different was going on. And it was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life.
Not everyone Stuart talked to was as smitten with the object.
Unbelievable.
It scared a lot of people to death, thinking it was some type of weapon coming in from outer space.
Florida is a UFO hotspot. It's actually second only to California. There have been 7,000 sightings of UFOs in Florida since 1998.
But UFOs are consistently reported to fly without leaving visible exhaust or contrails. And there's another theory, a very human, high-tech weapon reported to leave a distinctive exhaust trail. The Chinese military already claims to have developed something called a hypersonic missile. As the name suggests, it travels at 5 times the speed of sound at low altitude. That's a game changer because such a weapon could make it from the human missile silos in central China to Washington, D.C., evading radar and existing air defense systems until it is already well over U.S. airspace. And American nuclear submarines reportedly now have their own hypersonic missile, dubbed the Sea Dragon. So that might be what Stuart witnessed. Another theory? This is some new rocket being developed by a space entrepreneur like Elon Musk. Notice how both this 2017 SpaceX launch and the one in Stuart's video have glowing contrails due to an effect you may have seen in an earlier episode about a suspected Chinese rocket. While it's dark on the ground, the rocket and its contrails are high up enough to be illuminated by the sun, even though it's over the horizon. But exactly what sort of rocket, missile, or other craft could be creating the huge exhaust trail in Stuart's video is a mystery.
SpaceX's Falcon 9 has become the most flown operational U.S. rocket, reaching orbit 24 times in 2020. So could this be another Elon Musk venture, or is there something else more troubling going on?
First, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio considers if this could be a jet going supersonic.
When the jet approaches the sound barrier, you'll see a condensation front along the front of the jet.
In moist air, a speeding plane creates low-pressure areas where water condenses in a vapor cone. As the plane speeds up, the cloud moves down the body. And when the plane breaks through the sound barrier, it outraces the water droplets and the cone disappears.
What we're seeing here, though, is a continuous plume that's persistent. So this is definitely not a supersonic jet.
Our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, thinks he can narrow it down further.
That teardrop shape and that contrail there, that is characteristic of some type of rocket or potentially a missile test.
But when McMillan checks the SpaceX launch schedule, he rules out any Elon Musk-related UFOs. So could this be a new weapons system, like the Sea Dragon?
The U.S. is just now kind of getting into the hypersonics game and trying to develop more operational hypersonic platforms.
When D'Antonio digs deeper, he finds the U.S. military had tested submarine-launched missiles in the area that day. But the military won't say what exactly was launched.
If it was a missile test of some kind, it's probably a missile that they don't want you to know about.
Despite the strange appearance, we're calling this one a rocket or missile launch. But what rocket or missile, we may never know. What's clear is that the U.S. is in a race to develop unstoppable hypersonic missiles. So we may be witnessing one of the very first tests.